Yellow Brick Consulting. Thank you for joining us for this installment of Simplifying the Complex, our video series. I'm here today with Kelly Guzman, our founder and CEO, to talk about the release of our latest book, A Guide to Healthcare Facility Dress Rehearsal Simulation Planning. Kelly, Yellow Brick has written and published 2 books within 2 years. How do you do that? And what made you decide to write a book in the first place?
Well, we decided to write the book to fill a gap in the industry that we have. So we're transition planners, and there really hasn't been much published, and there definitely wasn't a book. So we took that to task as an organization, and we decided to publish the first book on transition and activation planning. We wanted to publish a second book, but it was in our 5-year plan. Due to the COVID pandemic and us being home, we really fast-tracked our goals and decided to write this second book on dress rehearsal.
What inspired dress rehearsal to be the topic to be covered in this book?
Well, dress rehearsal is one of our favorite topics as a team, mostly because we get to work with the frontline staff and test the workflows and all of the planning that we've done over the past couple of years. So it really brings all of those things to life. And dress rehearsal is something that organizations don't necessarily have the internal expertise to do. And that's something that we get called to help organizations to really just help them with their dress rehearsal. So we thought writing a guide about it would be really helpful.
So what can readers expect from this new book?
So it's a guide, it's a step-by-step guide. So if you get a copy, you'll be able to take the guide and follow it. There's a project plan, there's tools, there's templates. We used a 150 to 200 bed hospital as the example. So the dress rehearsal planning process is scalable. So if it's a smaller project, you can certainly shorten some of the timelines and then scale down the numbers that we include. If it's a bigger project, then you can scale up.
Can you share some tips for those aspiring to publish a book?
Absolutely. So we learned many lessons learned that we applied in this second book that we wrote. So number one, having a clear vision of what you want to write and why you want to write about it. Identifying a publisher who could align with the goals and the vision that you have for your book. So we identified various copies of books that we read and that we use as a team, and those were some of the publishers that we looked at.
I struggle in starting the writing process, especially when looking at a blank page. Do you have any suggestions for getting started?
Yes, I would start with an outline and again, fill in as much detail as possible. So our team we wrote as a team, so having that outline was very important, and then again, filling in the detail, having a standard glossary and lexicon that was consistent throughout the book is certainly helpful. The other thing is really limiting the number of distractions that you have. There's so many distractions in the world today. So finding a quiet place, knowing when you're at your best to write. And then I would say put a timeline together and then quadruple it because it takes a long time.
Yes, definitely. The editing process was much more rigorous than I anticipated. Can you describe the process we used?
Sure. So we, again, took lessons learned from our first book, did 3 rounds of edits. We approached it like a project plan. You know, we're project managers. So we put a project plan together, got one of our most diligent taskmasters to manage all of us, put deadlines together, and then we backwards planned what we wanted to do. So there's 3 rounds of edits. We went through. We identified people who were in the industry and familiar with the process, but not necessarily experts. So we had them review the content and provide feedback to us. So we took their feedback, updated it, and then sent that to the publisher.
One of our biggest lessons learned from our first book was related to our tools. What you see on your computer screen is not how it will look in the printed copy of the book. How was this adjusted for with our second book?
So with the second book, we did take all of those lessons learned. We use a lot of color at Yellow Brick with our tools, and when you're publishing a book, it's typically in black and white, and we knew that this guide would be in black and white. So we recruited people from our team who are very creative, and they had to use a gray scale, so using black, white, and gray, challenged them to make these tools as clear, as crisp, and as relevant to the content that we put. And we also had a team who went through the book and to provide consistency so that they were placed really according to where it made sense throughout the guide.
So when can we expect a guide to healthcare facility dress rehearsal simulation planning to be released?
We're excited. We just learned September 2nd. It'll be released through Emerald Publishing, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon, and you can go ahead and order a copy today.